I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 142, Sexual Insecurities. Your life does not have to revolve around your husband's pornography addiction. You are not defined by his choices or by what he sees on a screen. You are not just the porn addict's wife. You are so much more. In this podcast, I'm going to teach you how to go from handling it to healed. Because I've been where you are, and you don't have to stay there. My name is Jolene Wynn. I'm a member of the LDS Faith, a certified life coach, and a wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the porn addict's wife. Hello, my ladies. How are you today? I am really excited to talk to you about this topic today because, as you guys know, I announced this last week, I am doing a masterclass in February 13th through the 16th, all about how to become more confident in your sexual relationship with your husband. And today I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to let you know that it's still available. You guys can go sign up today. And I want to encourage you to because it's going to sell and there's going to be a lot of women in this class. Okay, it's $19. We're going to spend 4 full days together. I'm going to teach something every single day, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to get coached. So if you guys haven't been coached before, but you like the podcast, I would love to see you guys come join because I can teach you a lot on this podcast, but coaching is another thing altogether. Coaching is when I take the things that I'm teaching you and I help you apply them. And that's something that I can't just convey on a podcast. I have to show you how it's done. And so I want to give you the opportunity to come and to watch. You can come anonymously. You don't have to turn on your camera on Zoom. It's all done via Zoom. You can come and just watch other people get coached. But if you guys are curious about what the difference is between what you learn on the podcast and what coaching is, then I would encourage you to come sign up. It's just $19. It's less than $5 a day, and you can come for the whole week, and you will have access to the call recordings, which I guarantee you're going to want because there are going to be some things that blow your mind. Sexuality and our sexual relationship is one of the biggest struggles that women, the wives of porn addicts, have, and there's so many things that are connected or feel connected in our brain because pornography is sexual and can be such a sticking point. You can feel so very stuck in that. And so I want to, again, encourage you to go to my website, jolenewynn.com. You can go to the Coach Week tab and you'll see it right there. All the details are there, the dates, the times, and you can click right there and sign up. And there are some of you that have already signed up. I can't wait to see you there. I'm so excited. And I can't wait to teach you on this topic because this is something that has completely changed my life and especially my relationship with my husband. So I'm excited to do that. I'm actually recording this podcast a couple of days earlier than I normally do because I'm moving this weekend. And my husband and I are moving we live in North Carolina. We are just moving, 35 minutes away. And we are moving to a house that's a little bit bigger and has a little more land on a couple acres. And so we'll have a little more space for our 5 babies to keep growing up. So I have just been busy. I've just been doing a lot. I don't feel stressed. I was talking to my clients about that today. I don't feel stressed, but I do feel like I have a lot to do. Now, some people feel like stress simply comes when you have a lot to do. But as we know, lots to do is a thought. Listing out the things I have to do would be a circumstance, but the thought is I have a lot to do, but that doesn't stress me out. I'm just going and doing and plugging along, and I will pack my house this week, and we will move on Saturday and be in our brand new house. So with all the emotions that come with that, people keep asking me if I'm excited to move, and the only people and I'm not yet, just because I have so many things to do. And the thing that's fascinating is that the people that I find asking me that are not the people that have moved. People that have moved a lot are like, oh no, you're not excited yet. This week is too busy to be exciting. It'll be exciting later. And so that was just fascinating. It's funny every time people ask me, oh, are you excited? The people that have moved before are like, not this week. Not the 3 days before you move. You'll be excited later. And that's exactly how I feel. But it's going to be great. And then we'll be in a brand new house. So I am excited to talk to you about this today. Do you know what's funny? I have said this a million times on a million different podcast episodes, but I had something else planned. And literally as I sat down to record this, this title popped up into my head. Sexual insecurities. And I'm very excited to talk to you about it today because it's bringing so much up. Because here's what happens is, ladies, there are so many different ways we can feel insecure about our sexual relationship with our spouse. And I'm going to hit on some of those today, okay? So what I want to talk about first is the insecurity part, okay? Insecurity is not a fact. Did you know this? And it's not a personality trait. It's not I was born insecure. A lot of people think that. They're just like, "Oh, I am insecure. I'm not confident. I am insecure." Right? Now, again, it's not like when you were born, you were like, I was born and I had blue eyes and I had a dimple in my cheek and I'm insecure, right? That an insecure is an emotion that you feel. And when you say, I am insecure, what you're doing is you're taking that emotion and you're making it who you are, taking it on as part of your identity. And if you find yourself doing that, then I want to offer to you that you can stop. And one of the best ways that you can start shifting that is, rather than saying, I am insecure, you can start saying, I feel insecure. And there's a really, really big power in doing this, okay? And if you guys have listened to the podcast, you've heard me talk about this before. Rather than taking on our emotions as part of our identity, starting to recognize that they're simply emotions and feelings that we feel in our body is very powerful, because then we have the ability to see them and feel them and not be them. Does this make sense? And when you are not your feelings, then you have a little bit of space. And from that space between you and what you feel is the ability for you to observe it. And when you start to be able to observe it, that's when you can begin to process it. You cannot process your emotions when you aren't able to create the space between yourself and the emotion, because you're too wrapped up in it in order to see it and separate it and let it go. Right? And that's another thing, is when we take on our emotions as part of our identity, then we get very attached to them, even if they're negative. We don't even know who we would be without them, right? I've told this example a million times. I had a client who really struggled with body image, and she was talking about how she doesn't feel confident. And I said, well, what if you did? What if you were able to let go of that lack of confidence, of feeling like you weren't confident? What if you were able to feel confident? And she was like, I don't even know who I would be if I were not insecure about myself, right? And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in our identity of our emotions that we don't even want to let it go. We don't even know who we would be if we did let it go. And so practicing this ability to just start labeling it as an emotion rather than as who you are is going to start being able to shift that a little bit inside of you. Does that make sense? Now, one of the things that I want to offer about feeling insecure is, again, that it's just an emotion, okay? When we feel insecure, what we're really doing is we are lacking, what we feel is a lack of confidence, right? That's actually part of the definition, right? If you look up insecure, it's an adjective, right? It's a description, right? So insecure is not confident, right? So the opposite is confidence, which is exactly what I'm talking about in my masterclass. So if you're struggling with this, I want to, again, encourage you to come, because the opposite is, if you feel like you're not confident in your sexual relationship, typically that's because you have insecurities. So if you're feeling insecure, then I want to, again, teach you that it's just an emotion and we can flip it. Again, it's not a personality trait. I had another client that thought that confidence was something you were either born with or not born with, but that's not true at all. Confidence is something you can develop, okay? It's an emotion. I feel confident, okay? And you can choose to feel that way. What's happening right now, if you feel insecure, then you have thoughts that are creating those emotions inside of you. Again, if you think about the way that we even talk about it, especially with physical insecurities, we say things like, I have insecurities. These are my insecurities, right? Do you see how much we take it on as part of who we are? We even are proud of it almost. It's like, this is mine. I pick up a bag. This is my insecurity. I have insecurities. Here they are. These are mine. I bet you guys could give me a list right now. If I ask you, what are your physical insecurities? You could give me a list. My thighs are too big. my butt's too small, my love handles don't fit in my jeans the right way, my stretch marks, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, your brain has a whole list of the things that your brain thinks are wrong, that you are insecure about, that you don't feel confident about for whatever reason that is, right? Okay, so that's what I want to preface this with today. Today I'm going to talk about three different areas of insecurity that typically come up in our sexual relationship. Okay, we're going to talk about our sexual insecurities, insecurities with pornography, and then physical insecurities. Okay, so I'm going to start with the physical insecurities because I kind of already started. Okay, so again, I want you to keep that definition in mind of not feeling confident, and keep in mind that insecure is just an emotion that you feel. Okay, so with our physical relationship with our husband, our sexual relationship with our husband, think about when those experiences come up, when you're having these physically intimate moments, one of the areas where you feel insecure, or one of the areas that my clients feel insecure, where I felt most insecure, was in my body, my physical body. Those insecurities, those things that I felt insecure about my body physically, would come up in these situations when I was trying to have a sexual relationship with my husband. Now, this makes sense because sex involves your physical body, right? So all my thoughts about my physical body, all my feelings that came with those thoughts got in the way of me enjoying the experience. Here's what I mean. I'm going to go through some examples to kind of help you guys with this, okay? For example, I've always been very self-conscious of my stomach. That is where I tend to carry my weight. I also have big arms. I'm muscular. I have a lot of upper body strength. I lift weights, but that means that I have kind of I have broad shoulders. I have bigger arms, and I'm very athletically built. I am not curvy, right? So this was what would come up when we would start to have a physically intimate experience. Then all of my thoughts about my body, my physical insecurities, would come to the surface. Whenever my husband would touch my stomach, I would suck in and I would think, what is he thinking? Because I was worried that he was thinking the same thing I did, which is my stomach's too big. My stomach should be flatter. You guys follow me? Right? The physical insecurities that we have, the things we feel insecure about or not confident about our bodies, those are our physical insecurities, but they're optional, right? They're just thoughts that are creating feelings. The reason that I felt insecure about my stomach was because I had a thought that it should be different than it was. Do you guys follow me? I thought that I should look different physically. And as long as I kept that thought, then it would make me feel insecure about the way that my body looked as it was. You guys follow me? So every time we had sex or there was some kind of physically intimate experience, my brain would bring up all of these thoughts about my physical insecurities, and I would feel insecure. Now, what happens when you feel insecure? Do you guys know? Insecure is not an emotion that our brain likes to feel. It's kind of negative. It feels very, for me, it feels like in my stomach, like a ball of nerves, right? It feels like fluttering. It's almost like a nervousness, like mixed with embarrassment almost, right? I wonder what he's thinking, right? And that all of these thoughts are what are preventing me from really enjoying the experience and having the confidence that he is enjoying this as much as I am, or that I am what he wants, right? You guys follow me? So when these happen, when our brain feels insecure, when we feel insecure, then our brain wants to fix it, right? Our brain doesn't want to feel negative emotion. It's wired to avoid it. So when we feel something negative, then our brain wants to avoid it. And I have seen so many clients do this in a number of different ways, right? One of the things that we do is we try to ignore it, right? We just try to pretend, we try to act confident even though we don't feel confident. Now, this only works for a little bit because you can't lie to yourself forever. Your brain is smart. It knows when it's being lied to. So you can't just put on an air of confidence and lie to yourself forever. Your insecurities, if you don't know how to deal with them and work through them, are still going to be there, even if you pretend like they're not. So you can put on all the lingerie you want. You can put out as much as you want. You can learn how to do whatever it is that you want to learn how to do in the bedroom, and it's still not going to produce confidence, because confidence doesn't come from circumstances. It doesn't matter how much you change your circumstances. It doesn't change how you feel, okay? That is something I teach you how to do here, right? We change our thoughts, we process our emotions. That's how you change what you feel. And pretending you're not confident doesn't actually make you feel any more confident. You guys follow me? So ignoring the insecurity isn't a solution to make it go away. I've talked about this before. It's like shoving a beach ball underwater. Trying to pretend like that beach ball is there. It's like shoving a beach ball underwater, and it's exhausting, and you can do it for a little while, but it's very, very draining. And eventually the beach ball pops up because you get too tired to hold it down any longer. Pretending like you don't feel an emotion is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. But when you just let it be there and acknowledge it and accept that you feel a little insecure and that you can just feel that and it's totally fine, that's when you have a game changer. Okay? So one of the things is we try to ignore it. Another thing that we try to do that I've seen so many clients do is they try to ignore it through, or they try to move away from it. Okay? They go in the opposite direction. So because some women feeling physically insecure about their bodies is such a strong emotion that they just try to avoid it. Okay. Now here's the problem is that when you try to avoid the way that you feel about your own body, that's much easier when there's not another person involved, right? When your physical body is not used in a relationship, a beautiful part of your relationship with your spouse, right? Like having sex. When you're on your own, you can avoid your thoughts about your body and your feelings about your body a lot more than when you have another person involved. That's an important, beautiful part of the relationship, is having this sexual relationship. When you are trying to avoid the way that you feel about your body in your marriage, then one of the things that I've seen so many clients do is they push their husband away physically, right? Because they don't like how they feel when he gets close, when he touches their arm, when he brushes up against their leg, because they have so many thoughts and feelings about their own body that they haven't worked through. And it's creating a rift in their marriage because they're refusing or trying to avoid the sexual, physical part of the relationship. And even when they do engage in the sexual part of their relationship, it's uncomfortable. They don't enjoy it at all. And especially if you then don't enjoy it, that's not something your brain thinks that you want to keep doing, right? And that's when we get situations where they haven't had sex in weeks or months or years because of their own physical insecurities, because of their own emotions that they're trying to avoid. This makes sense? Okay. Now, this happens with all of the negative emotion that we feel. Our brain wants to ignore it, it wants to avoid it, or it wants to distract ourselves from it. That's typically what we do, right? Those are the primary responses to emotion, okay? So distracting ourselves from how we feel about our body physically, that might look like trying to overcompensate. And that's what I talked about a little bit last week. If you listen to last week's podcast episode with thoughts about sexuality, one of the examples that I gave that I've seen clients do is one, either go ultra feminine, or one, try and go more masculine, not in that they make themselves look more masculine, but they take on more of the dominant role in the relationship sexually, right? And that might look like taking more control. Both are out of an attempt for control in a way to distract themselves from how they feel, right? Again, becoming ultra feminine and, wearing a lot of makeup or putting on all the lingerie or having a boudoir photo shoot or whatever it is that they think is ultra feminine, or going in the opposite direction and only putting on a baggy t-shirt and being the one who dictates when and where and how often and all of those things, right? That's usually an attempt to avoid however it is that you feel about yourself physically. I don't want to acknowledge how I feel physically, so I'm just going to throw on this baggy t-shirt and turn off the lights, right? And not think about it. You guys see what I'm saying? We're trying to distract ourselves with something else. Okay? So those are typically the ways that we react to the negative emotion that we feel. And again, it's much easier to do this for a longer period of time when we're the only one affected, right? But in a physical relationship, in a marriage, when you have a physical sexual relationship with your spouse, this starts to have consequences and effects fairly quickly, right? So that's just what happens when we feel insecure physically. Now, what I want to offer as the alternative is something that I already just talked about a little bit, which is that there's another alternative to feeling your emotions. You don't have to ignore them or avoid them or distract yourselves from them. You can actually accept them and process them. This is very tricky to do in the moment when you're new to all of this and you don't know how to really be in charge of your brain and how to process your emotions. This is very hard to do on your own. So again, I would encourage you to come coaching with me so that I can teach you how to do this, but you can learn how to allow the emotion in the moment. Did you know that you can just allow yourself to feel insecure and do it anyway? Did you know this? And actually enjoy the experience. It doesn't have to be something that's terrible, even if you feel physically insecure, right? And there is a way to overcome your physical insecurities. Just because you feel insecure about yourself now does not mean that you have to forever. This was the most life-changing work that I ever did, was on my own body image, my own physical insecurities. The hardest work was overcoming my husband's, all the betrayal, all the rejection, all the emotional pain from his pornography use. But the real work that shifted more in my life than anything else besides that was my work on how I felt and thought about my own body. The beautiful part about this, again, like I said in the beginning, is that physical insecurities are not just something that you're born with or not. Okay? They're all your thoughts and your feelings about your body. Mostly when you have thoughts like you should be different than you are. I should weigh less. I should be smaller. I should be more curvy. I should look like something I'm not. Those are all thoughts that you have for a reason. Your brain has chosen to believe those thoughts, and I can teach you how to change those thoughts because they're just thoughts and you don't have to keep thinking them. For some reason right now, your brain is choosing to repeat those thoughts, mostly because you have a ton of evidence for them. Tons of evidence of how you're supposed to be smaller. Everyone on Instagram is smaller. Everyone in these magazines is skinnier. I don't look like the Kardashians, and apparently they're the sex icon of this century. My husband looks at pornography, and that's sexual, so therefore I should look differently, because if I did, then maybe he wouldn't look at porn. Your brain has so much evidence to keep thinking about yourself the way that you do, okay? Most of us are not aware of why we're doing it. This is the power of coaching, is coming in and having someone help you figure out why it is your brain is thinking those thoughts and teach you how to shift it, because it's optional. The way that you think and feel about your body is optional. So if you're thinking and feeling about your body a way that you don't want to, then I want to encourage you to start making changes, and I can teach you how to do that. Okay? Come to the Coach Week. I'll teach you. Okay? Now, the second area where a lot of times we feel insecure in our sexual relationship is because of our own thoughts and insecurities about sex. I brought this up a little bit last week in our thoughts about sexuality, right? But many of us have thoughts about sex that then produce feelings of insecurity. Okay. Again, I brought this up last week, so this might be a little bit of a repeat, but some of those thoughts are, again, about what should and shouldn't be happening. If I feel insecure about sex, then anytime it happens, I'm going to have a little bit of emotion come up, a little bit of feeling insecure. Maybe I don't feel secure. Maybe I don't feel confident in how often we do it, right? Maybe I feel insecure about what I'm supposed to do. Maybe I feel insecure about my ability to please my spouse. Maybe I feel insecure about X, Y, and Z. Right? So we have our physical insecurities, and then we have our insecurities about sex in general, or our thoughts about ourselves as a sexual partner, right? This would be super fascinating for you guys to start thinking of. What do I think of myself as a sexual partner? Do I feel like I'm good? Am I confident in my ability to please him as a sexual partner? Or do I feel like maybe I'm not enough? Now, this connects to that third area where we often feel insecure, which is around pornography. Okay? Because pornography is sexual, our brain thinks that it's about sex, and it's not. And this is when it comes up, is when we have our sexual relationship with our husband, and then we start to think about his pornography use, and we start to feel insecure. Most of the time, what's happening is our brain is going to pornography. What is he thinking? Is he doing this because he saw something today? Is he trying to avoid a relapse? Am I even anything close to what he looks like? What if he's thinking about somebody else right now, right? Something that he's seen. Our brain wants to spin in that because it fuels our insecurities, our sexual insecurities, our physical insecurities, our insecurities about him watching pornography. And most of that comes because our brain is still connecting ourselves and our physical sexual relationship with our husband with pornography, which again feels really connected. It feels like it's not separated. It feels like it can't be separated. It feels like they are connected beliefs. But what I want to offer is that you start throwing a wrench at that. You start breaking up, because that is a lie. Start breaking up with that lie that sex and pornography are connected, because they are not. So what I would encourage you guys to do is start asking yourself, what comes up for me? What am I insecure about his pornography use that comes up for me when we're having sex? What is it that I'm worried about? What is it that I feel insecure about regarding his pornography specifically? I gave you guys just a couple of thoughts as examples. Some of those were mine. Some of those were some that my clients have had, right? So I want to encourage you to get really curious with your own brain. What do I think? What am I insecure about his pornography use that comes up during sex, right? I think a lot of times what I see with my clients is they feel very insecure about his motives, right? Now, I've talked a lot about this, but I'm going to mention it again, is that when your husband wants to have sex with you, it is about giving into a feeling and about allowing an emotion, versus pornography, which is about distracting yourself from an emotion. Okay, so, but it's very tricky in our brains when we don't trust him, when we have our own insecurities, when we have our own fears and our own worries and anxieties. That's what comes up. And our brain says, why am I feeling anxious? Oh, that's because my husband's addicted to porn, and I don't really know why he's coming after me right now. Coming after me. That sounded violent. No, I don't know why he's initiating this right now, right? Our brain wants to second guess. Because that's our brain's job. Our brain is designed to look out for danger. Our brain is designed to keep us avoiding negative experiences, okay? And so our brain is trying to protect us, but in its effort to protect us, what it's actually producing is a lot of anxiety and worry about a situation that doesn't necessarily need it. What your brain is actually trying to avoid in these moments is negative emotion, okay? But you don't need protection from your own feelings. You don't need protection from your own emotions, because they can't hurt you. Your feelings are meant to be felt, positive and negative. And sometimes we have this idea that sex is supposed to be an all positive experience. So if we feel any negative emotion come up whatsoever, including insecurity, then our brain thinks something has gone wrong, that our relationship is struggling, and that we need to fix it in some way. Okay? But what I want to offer is that instead, you start allowing yourself to simply feel a little insecure. Okay? And just feel that in your body. Allow yourself to just sit in it and know that it's totally fine. Does this make sense? Are you guys with me? We have these three areas of where this insecurity comes up in these sexual relationships is so powerful to start understanding and separating. We kind of tend to wrap it up all in one, or maybe not even look at it specifically. And that's why I categorized it in these three different areas today, because each one of them is going to have your own separate thoughts about each one. And I would encourage you guys to start looking in that. And if you need help, come coach with me and I'll help you with this, to start separating those so that you can look at those thoughts individually and start working through them. Okay. I know that I've taught you guys about how to change your thoughts. There's so many podcasts. There's 163 podcast episodes, you guys. I have taught a lot about this, but if you guys want help with this, I can teach you how to do this. You guys know how to do it. First, you become aware. You have to become aware of the thoughts. That's what this whole podcast is about, is to help you become aware of what you're thinking and feeling. Then we have to learn how to accept it. Maybe there are some thoughts that we don't like. Maybe there's some thoughts that we're embarrassed that we have. We have to let go of all that self-judgment and accept it. Then we have to process the emotion that comes up. Once I'm aware of this thought that I have about my body and I accept that it's there, then I have to process the emotion that I feel that comes up when I think it, right? And I just have to learn how to let it sit there and let it process and then let it go and stop carrying it around with me as emotional baggage forever, right? And after I've done that, that is when I can start retraining my brain to think differently. I don't have to keep the thoughts that I think about my body. In fact, I have chosen completely new thoughts. I believe completely different thoughts than I used to believe about my body. I used to think I hated my body. That was my belief. I hate my body. And I had a lot of judgment on that. And it made me feel very insecure, especially when I was having sex with my husband. Because if I hated my body, there was no way I was ever going to believe him when he said that he loved it or that he enjoyed touching me or kissing me or having this physical experience with me, because I hated my body so much. I couldn't even fathom that he could enjoy it. And it was definitely having a negative consequence in our relationship, because I would second guess him. I didn't believe him when he told me nice things, when he complimented me, when he tried to touch me. He didn't touch my stomach, ladies, for years, because he knew that I felt uncomfortable when he did. Years, ladies, he didn't touch my stomach. And that is not what I want him to be thinking about when we're having sex. It's like, okay, is she comfortable? Okay, I don't want to touch her stomach. Like, I want him to actually enjoy it. And if he wants to touch my stomach, I want him to be able to. But I couldn't, because I was so embarrassed. I was so insecure, because I thought that I should look differently than I did. Okay? This was a process. I used to think I hated my body, and then I gently started moving my thoughts as I processed my emotions. Now, this is not as simple as just changing into a nice thought, okay? You can't just start repeating nice mantras about how you're sexier than Beyonce, and then you'll start believing them. Because again, your brain is smart. It knows when it's being lied to. You can't simply try to avoid the way that you think and feel about your body, because it's going to come up. You can't avoid the way you think and feel about porn or the way you think and feel about sex. It's going to come up, especially in these physical, sexual moments with your spouse. So the beauty of all of this is that this is all happening within your own brain. And what we can do is we can go in and look at it, not in those moments, so that you can work through it, so that you can start to enjoy those moments even more. My husband and I have always had an amazing sexual relationship, but ladies, I'm telling you, it is 100 times better now than it used to be, so much more so that I couldn't have even fathomed that we could have gotten here. There's a question that I've asked you guys before, and I want to ask you it again. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate your sexual relationship with your husband? And you can't say 7. Okay? First number that comes to mind. Don't change it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your sexual relationship with your husband? Okay? What if whatever number you just chose isn't really the number? What if, even if you said, I think we're at like a 8. Look, I almost said 7. Let's say you rated it at an 8. What if it's only a 2? What if what you think is amazing right now is just the tip of the iceberg, and it could get even better? And what if, even if you think it's terrible right now, what if it doesn't have to stay there? I'm telling you, ladies, it doesn't. Because all of these physical insecurities, sexual insecurities, insecurities that you have about pornography, all of those are not traits that are stamped in stone or genetically gifted. These are things you can change, because they are thoughts and they are feelings, and we can change your thoughts and feelings. You do not have to stay wherever it is that you are. If you feel insecure about your relationship sexually, if you feel insecure about yourself sexually, if you feel insecure about sex in general or about pornography, all of those things are just thoughts and feelings, and they're totally optional, and they can be changed if you want them to. Okay, I love you ladies so much. If you want help with this, come sign up for my masterclass, because I'm going to teach way more on this, and I would love to help you individually with your specific insecurities so that I can help you conquer them, teach you how to change them, and help you start to finally go forward. I love you ladies so much, and I'll see you guys next week on a brand new episode. So take care. All right, ladies, if you are loving what you are learning on the podcast, I want to invite you to come join my coaching program. This is where we take it to the next level, and we actually start applying and learning the how of moving forward. This podcast has taught you the what, and the coaching program is where you're going to learn the how. This is where you learn how to actually start moving forward, process all of that pain that you feel, and let it go once and for all. If you are ready to finally move forward and stop living a life that revolves around your husband's pornography addiction, then I want to invite you to come join me today. Just head to my website, joleneWynn.com, and sign up today. I can't wait to see you there.